absolutely.
They're seeing all the wrong stuff. There we go. I fixed it.
Oh no! Everyone can see us now, Sean.
Everything is fine. Everything is perfectly fine.
No, of course not. There wasn't any delays or any, weird stuff happening behind the
right
scenes
on time.
that no one else knew about except me and Sean.
12:10. Yeah. Look at that. Blah 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 blah.
Yeah. Xavier,
Watcher girl,
in chat as well.
Xavier.
Watcher girl.
It's good stuff, man. We got lots to talk about today, Ryan Turford.
I mean, it should be fun. It should be fun. I'm actually, I'm happy we're talking today too, especially because I'm so excited to talk to you about Final Fantasy for once, Sean, because we don't get to talk about Final Fantasy on Xbox very often, Sean.
Yeah, I was looking at the notes, and we gotta balance all this weeb stuff out.
It's all in the thumbnail, Sean. We have to talk about it. And just like after this podcast is over, you're gonna feel like Court Lalonde, where he was telling me he's all Final Fantasy'd out, Sean. So
is Donnie Reese. So you're like this is getting catching fire a little bit, just like the Hunger Games, Ryan.
Good. Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, Donnie Reese doesn't even like Tool, so I mean,
yeah, what's with that?
I don't know. I don't understand that. I mean,
except the weirdest, you play Tales of Arise. Oh, I know. That's why I can say that, Kevin. That's exactly why I can say that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, Ryan, you want to do this thing?
Yeah, we should probably get into it. I'm just gonna move the chat over here, and I think I am ready to go when you are, good sir.
Hey everyone, it's me, Sean Capri. I'm glad you're here because you're listening to the most horse-powerful podcast on the internet. It's the Xbox Drive. I'm on a Skype call with my friend Ryan Turford. He's the weatherman on the moose, and on our journey today, we're going to talk about a bunch of weeb stuff, I think. So jump on into the Xbox Drive. Ball!
No power greater than X.
Ryan Turford, you are shaking your head at me right now. We don't pre-write or have these intros pre-approved. I don't even know what I'm about to say. You can probably tell that a little bit. How are you, my friend?
Oh, I'm doing well. I mean, it's hot outside, Sean, here in Toronto. It's like 33 degrees outside, but it feels much harder than that.
We haven't had one in a while.
I know. Well, sometimes someone's got to bring the culture to this podcast.
The culture.
The culture of the weather, okay?
Okay.
The weatherman on the moose is here with his weather report. First of all, we've got a cold front coming in from the north, and then from this side we got a warm weather front that's gonna bring tornadoes. Tornado watch. You got to watch out for tornadoes.
Well, I think you're just trying to demystify the notion that we all live in igloos all the time. So I will allow it for the sake of this debunking the stereotype that Canadians, we just live in ice all the time. It can get hot.
I'm just so he's reminded of it though, Sean. So for folks that don't know, when you use Windows, along the bottom, along the start bar, there's like the weather report that Microsoft has.
Oh, I turn that off. You gotta get that
I literally just have the weather report of like a heat warning in Toronto just staring back at me at my face while I'm looking at the notes and the chat. So it's staring at me. So it's in the front of my peripheral vision, Sean. So
Bob,
that's why it's
blah,
always
blah. I'm sorry, Bob blah blah in the chat says the cardinal directions northwest, east, and this side.
Well, clearly I'm just not as good of a weatherman as Sean is. So
oh my gosh,
that's just how it is. But anyways,
what a time to be alive.
Let's get into the show, all right? Let's talk about Xbox, because this is an Xbox show. You're listening or watching this over at youtube.com/carpoolgaming because you like Xbox. So let's clean the garage. And folks at home, if you want to support the show, there's a number of awesome ways to do that. Number one, if you're watching us right now on youtube.com/carpoolgaming, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't subscribed already, and then ding, 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 ring that notification bell to be notified whenever we go live or whenever we have new videos to post. And Sean, there's lots of video this week, so that notification is going off a lot this week because we got not one, but 2 extra miles this week because we got 2 of them coming tomorrow. Because I'm doing one with Matt Sawinski about Turtles, and then I'm also
one Turtles.
About the Quarry that I already recorded, and it's going up tomorrow as well. So lots of videos on the channel. So make sure to check us out if you haven't already. youtube.com/carpoolgaming. Also, if you're listening on audio feeds, don't forget that subscribe button there as well. And also rate us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. In fact, Sean, we're like 5-star ratings away from 50 5-star ratings on Spotify. So thank you to everyone who's rated us on Spotify. We really appreciate it. And if you haven't rated us already, please do so. That's an awesome way to support the show if you haven't already. And then speaking of supporting the show, if you want early access to all of our shows or some exclusive content, We got lots of exclusive content coming, Sean. Head over to Patreon, patreon.com/carpoolgaming. Throw a little tip in the old tip jar, just like our newest ultimate producer, Bob Law 574. Sorry. Bob Law 574 was the newest patron because Bobby Miller became an ultimate producer. I apologize. I have dyslexia and I read that backwards. So sorry about that.
That actually should be you should say that all the time.
I mean, I should. I always like to point it out whenever I make a mistake like that because my brain thinks in reverse a lot of times, Sean. So
that's why you like. Is that why you like manga? Manga? Is that because backwards?
I mean, it just makes more sense to me, Sean, than just normal comics. So
Court Lalonde with just some dynamite commentary in the chat here. People owe it to themselves to visit us. We record, by the way. We never really say this. It just has occurred to me, and we're like, come to YouTube, or whatever. We're live in the chat, and it's 2 p.m. Eastern Daylight Standard, whatever the hell time, whatever we're in now. It's 2 o'clock in the Eastern time zone. So if you guys are ever wondering, like, when you can stop on by, 2 o'clock, pretty much every single week, every Wednesday here at youtube.com/carpoolgaming, and then then it's up after that.
That's good to know. And also, if you come on watch the VOD later, but you want to know what the chat's saying, the chat is always live, is always archived as well. So you can always look at Court's weird comments in the chat as well. And last but not least, of course, shout out if you want an Xbox Drive t-shirt or another Carpool Gaming related t-shirt, because we have one for all the different shows. Head on over to our merch store. The link is in the description of this video or in the show notes if you're listening on audio feeds. Well, without further ado, let's grab our 8 tracks, pop them in. It's time for the playlist. And Sean, we both played the same game this week, although I played some more games that we'll talk about in a second. But we got to talk about Shredder's Revenge because it went live on Friday.
Game Pass!
And it's on Game Pass. So none of us had to go buy it or anything like that. And I'm curious to know, because you and I haven't talked about this since it came out. So I'm curious to know what you thought about this game, Sean.
I love it. Back to you. No, it's great, dude. I don't know what else there really is to say. It's exactly what I wanted. They nailed it. I played as Leonardo, not DiCaprio, just the blue guy, and fighting with the swords and whatnot. I feel like the perfect length for replayability. I don't know, maybe it took me an hour or two. Like, it really didn't take a whole heck of a lot of time. So rolled credits on Shredder's Revenge. That's I don't know, maybe the 4th game this year. Not sure. But I loved all the callbacks. The music for the bosses definitely threw me back. Level design is exactly the right length. Like, you can go back and challenge yourself to find all the secrets. You can try to beat it in a faster time. You can be with all the different characters. I've unlocked Casey Jones. What I'm not very good at, and it's just like in Turtles in Time and any of these other beat 'em up games, I'm not very good at throwing enemies at the screen. I've got to get that figured out because you got to have it figured out for one part of the game. But it's very accessible. It doesn't kick my butt nearly as bad as any of the other beat 'em ups. Like, this is probably one of the easier ones, if I'm okay to say that. Yeah.
It's definitely like really well balanced and good for beginners. Like, if you're a beginner and you haven't played a lot of these games, like Sean and I grew up in the arcade era, so obviously, beat 'em up games aren't really, anything new to us, but you have to remember there's lots of kids out there that maybe this is their first time playing a beat 'em up game for the first time, and they're into it because they're just into Turtles, and that's why they're playing this for the first time.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that the difficulty is like this rather than being so punishing, because the whole reason why the arcade games were so punishing back in the day was because they were specifically designed to eat your quarters.
Microtransactions.
The whole deal, and basically get you to spend money. Whereas they don't really need to do that with Shredder's Revenge. They've already got your money at this point, so they don't need to, continue to do that. So
it's funny.
It makes more sense.
It is funny when you say, like, we both grew up in the arcade days, which we did. Like, we're very similar in age. We were poor. We didn't really have a whole lot of money. So this is probably like the saddest thing. If you can just picture, there's 4 of us kids, and we would go to arcades, but it would be on like the demo mode. It would show you like how to play the game or whatever. And so we would pretend. We wouldn't actually have any quarters to put in there. We would just like jiggle the joysticks and push the buttons as if we were playing. That was a fun little memory, but a little sad a little bit. Didn't even have a quarter to play the beat 'em up games. Oh my gosh.
Oh my god.
The heck.
No. Whereas, it's one of those things where I have so many special memories tied to the TMNT arcade machine, like me and my brother Kyle would go, because my mom would always take us to the arcade, or a restaurant or something, because arcade machines were literally everywhere during
Right.
the 80s and 90s. You could go to most restaurants, like if you went to a
Totally.
pizza restaurant,
Yep, if you're getting your
Pizza
hair
Hut
cut.
or something like that, there'd be an arcade machine there.
Totally.
And a lot of times it'd be Turtles or Mortal Kombat or Street Fighter or something like that. And we used to play Turtles all the time. Like we actually beat the game on 4 quarters, which
Yeah.
is like a low amount of quarters to be able to beat that game with before. So
Missed opportunity for banks, I will say. They should have had them at banks. When you actually had to go to the bank and when you were there with your mom and you're just sitting there like, man, you're literally at the place that gives you money. Don't take, here, have a roll of quarters from the bank. Go play whatever, Pac-Man or something. Goodness gracious.
Yeah, exactly. So as far as Shredder's Revenge, I also think it's great. Also, if you're looking for more difficulty, there is the arcade mode to play through, where you have a limited number of lives or continues, so it does feel like the classic arcade, and you can crank that up to hard difficulty, and it gives you like a real challenge if you're actually like looking for a challenge. But I also like too that it's just very family friendly. This is the type of game I can imagine if you're a parent and your kids are just getting into video games and they like Turtles, or if they're interested in Turtles, or if you want to expose them to Turtles, I think this is a great way to do it. And to your point, I love the callbacks as well to the original like 80s cartoon, because this is very much based in that universe.
Love it.
So you've got villains from the show. You've also got the original voice actors coming back. So yeah, it's an ode to 80s Turtles.
Dude,
which again is just my era of Turtles.
Oh man, are you going into, because you're doing a extra mile for this thing? Like, are you going into? I don't want to get into. Is it spoilers to talk about like the bosses that you encounter? Like, it probably.
We'll be talking about some of them, but not all of them, because I want to keep some of them a surprise. But,
oh, it's so good.
We'll be talking about like some bosses that are like revisited from previous Turtle games, because I don't think that's too much of a spoiler, because you're mostly expecting a lot of those to be there.
Agreed.
Whereas some of like the out there ones, the ones that you wouldn't expect, I'm not going to talk about.
Oh man, it's so good. I want to play this again. I was actually just seeing, I think it was on purexbox.com.net.news, whatever it is, that crossplay exists, but only for Xbox and PC. So you can't. This is a game that's available on Switch and PlayStation, whatever. But the only time you can crossplay is on Xbox and PC, which is just as well, because that's where you get it on Game Pass. So why aren't you playing this game on Game Pass? Is what I got to say about that.
Exactly. I think this is an amazing Game Pass game. Exactly the type of game you'd want to see in Game Pass. And yeah, I'll be talking about it more with Matt Sawinski a little bit later tonight, and that you should be hearing that conversation tomorrow. Or tonight.
Highly recommend. Yeah, dude, this is the game that like I really just want to jump into a game and get really into it. I've had a bunch of games from the library that I have just skipped off of, but for whatever reason, I'm playing actually this Mario Strikers game, which I lamented about last week, and I've rescinded maybe a little bit on the Nintendo Drive yesterday. And then this little like just jump in and play arcade experience. Like, I don't want to have to memorize systems right now. I don't have to follow story. I don't need a 100-hour game. As much as I want to play that, this is where I found myself playing. Like, I have so many different options, and I just went like, oh, look what I'm doing. I didn't even like really think about. I just my hands just went to Turtles. That's all that happened.
Yeah, for sure. Well, as for me, Sean, I played some other games this week. I've been replaying AI the Somnium Files, because the sequel AI the Somnium Files Nirvana Initiative is coming out on Friday, and I wanted to get myself up to speed. My version of the game, though, been delayed apparently, and it won't be here until Tuesday.
Boo.
So I've got plenty of time to kind of finish it, because I did get the collector's edition for that game. So it got pushed back, but it should be here next week. And I kind of want to unbox it on the channel at some point.
Nice.
There's a lot of cool stuff in that collector's edition. I want to show it off. So I'll have more to say about that later, probably next week when the sequel comes out. And then we got a question from the Muffin Mon, aka Kevin Ainsworth, in the chat, aka Project X Talk, who asked us the question: Fall Guys is now on Xbox, and I was wondering if either of you have played it, and if we can expect some community stream nights for the game, since even this is more alive than Halo Infinite. So
what's with the shot? Unnecessary.
Yeah, good point. I mean, good news, Kevin Ainsworth. I mean, first of all, we both played Fall Guys before when it came to PlayStation Plus. We actually did a couple like streams over on Sean's channel before where we played with Mr. Badbit, and some other people, and it was a ton of fun then. And I was playing again last night on Xbox, because it came to Xbox, and that was kind of the last game I played this week. And it's still a ton of fun, Sean, to go back and play Fall Guys. Like, this game is still ridiculously goofy and fun, but I didn't fall out of the groove of things or anything like that, because even though there were a bunch of new mini games there that I hadn't played before, I mean, I didn't come in a match where I didn't come at least in third place. out of
Yeah.
the 10 I played yesterday. So I mean, I
Look
love
at
how
you.
quickly you can get in and out of rounds. And yeah, it's just a ton of fun still to play. So I'd expect maybe at some point, Sean, maybe we replace a Halo Saturday with a Fall Guys Saturday. What do you think?
I think so. I'm loving the chat right now is so awesome. Kevin in the chat says, I saw Sean on it last night on PS5. And so I'm really interested about this because Ryan, before we started recording, before we went live, also thought, like, he actually had in the notes, I was playing Fall Guys as well. So I'm really curious. Like, I'm being seen in all these different places. It's really kind of strange. I'm being well aware of how visible I am well outside of my own, like, posting on Twitter and things like that. So that's kind of fun. I was busy trying to figure out how to bring forward all my, like, things that I had unlocked because as you mentioned, yeah, I played this on PS4 with PlayStation Plus. This was a mainstay for like extra life streams or any of our marathon streams. Like, you could play this game for hours. And I was, Kato, we are watching you. I am apparently I've become aware.
Yeah.
I was trying to find, like, I thought I had unlocked like hot dog costumes and all this other stuff, and I was trying to figure out if my account was linked up, so my Epic account links to my PlayStation account, but I couldn't see any of it. So I kept, this is why you guys probably saw me like coming and going, because I fired it up on Xbox. It wasn't there. I was like, oh, maybe I got to go over to PlayStation. So I fired up my PS5, downloaded the PS5 version. I was like, oh, it's not here. Maybe it's on the PS4 version of this thing. Went over there, wasn't there. I still haven't got this stuff figured out. I don't know if I really should care about any of this stuff, but I don't know if any of this, did anything carry over for you, Ryan? Did you have any of this trouble? Yeah, everything
No,
just showed
I
up.
couldn't get anything to link because my Epic Game Store thing linked properly, which is why like I was able to see you were there because regardless of what console you were on, because it just had you in the menus all the
Right.
time constantly, and it kept trying to tell me, oh, by the way, Sean's on you should go play with him. But
nobody sent me an invitation, by the way. Everybody sees me on.
I was playing on my lunch break, so I didn't.
I'm
know how
just
much I had to
joshing.
kinda
I'm
play.
just joshing.
But anyways, going back to my story, no, I couldn't find a way to get the progress to carry over. As Kevin pointed out in the chat, like there's totally a bunch of issues with it right now, where the trophies are kind of broken. Like the back end
PS4 trophies worked. PS4, I had both versions, which is just a mess, by the way, on
and the achievements
PlayStation.
worked. I can confirm the achievements work because all my achievements were popping.
Yeah, same. And it was obviously linked to something. That was the thing that was really confusing to me. Is I fired up the PS4 version on a PS4. Actually, I had that as well. And then yeah, trophies started to pop. So like obviously some sort of progress that was saved to my profile like would prop the trophies. It's a whole. I shouldn't care about any of this stuff. Because it was funny, Kato over at youtube.com/console Kato fired this thing up, and she was playing, and the screen that you see at the start is like, there's all these different things all over the place, and she's like, there's just too much. And I guess I don't disagree, because I was too busy trying to figure out costumes or whatever, and so I should have just pressed play,
Yeah.
Should just push play, just like Aerosmith would say.
Yeah, like in the original Fall Guys on PlayStation 4, the non-free-to-play version, like I didn't really invest any, financial money into Fall Guys, and I didn't really play it enough where I didn't unlock like a ton of stuff anyway. So like, it doesn't bug me that if none of that stuff comes over. Like that's why I'm not sweating it if it doesn't.
Yeah.
Whereas I'm just waiting for the Halo costumes at this point, Sean. Like when the Halo costumes come out, I totally want to get those. But beyond that though, I'm not looking to really spend any money on the game anyway. So like, if I don't unlock the 5 or 10 things I had on PlayStation 4, it's not going to bug me too
And
much.
it really shouldn't bother me as either. Like it really is just it feels like a waste, but it really doesn't matter. I'm just looking. I think the Saturday should actually work out. I haven't been streaming over the last couple of Saturdays, whether I'm out of town for the Xbox thing or I was out of town this last weekend. Took my family to the Calgary Zoo. Ryan, I was in the Calgary.
Greatest city in Canada. That's correct.
It was
You were there.
fine. We were stuck in traffic the whole time, and it was underwater. It was totally flooding and all this other stuff. But whatever.
Good God, Sean.
Yeah, it's a natural disaster. Just kidding. I love you. I love you, Calgary. I got to meet Rybo, by the way. We met up at a Memory Express for the first
Dude,
time.
that's awesome.
I've known Rybo for many, many years, and yeah, picked up a laptop for my mother-in-law, and he picked up a boom arm for his streaming setup. It was very sweet. I set all the laptops in the Memory Express to watch twitch.tv/Joe after work.
Yes.
It was so good. I'm like,
Probably
how am I
loving
not?
some kind of cosplay that Joe was doing over there, right, Sean?
I don't know. No comment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No comment.
But Fall Guys, yes, I would love to play this. I am so encouraged to see and hear so many people are actually playing it, because there was this kind of nasty negative narrative that was building, like, oh, Fall Guys had its time in the sun and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, dude, the game is fun. It's free now. It's really too bad that it had a bit of a bumpy road, or a bit of a bumpy first day. But it's just, everybody wants to play it, because at its heart, it's a fun game. So glad to see it's back. You guys can definitely expect us to jump in on this thing, because hopefully crossplay works on the weekend. But I would say, yeah, count on Saturday for a carpool gaming Fall Guys stream.
For sure. I'm going to need a break, Sean, to play some Fall Guys, because, I mean, this is the weekend of games for Ryan Turford. I mean, again, I've got the Capcom fighting game collection this weekend. I got Sonic Origins. I got AI the Somnium Files if it actually comes in on time instead of being delayed like it says it's going to. So, I mean, it's going to be a busy weekend of games for me personally, because it's a very Ryan Turford month for games. But I'm glad that we can at least take a break with Fall Guys to jump into that and have some fun, because I definitely want to play with the community as well, because I remember having a ton of fun with it with Joe, and I hope we have some more fun times with it. But anyways, I'm slamming the brakes on this conversation, Sean, because it's time for some breaking news, and we got to get to some of these news stories this week. Starting off with the Xbox Summer Demo Event 2022, which I forgot was happening until Sean put it in the article for us actually putting the show together. There's 34 games available. Pure Xbox actually has a rundown of all 34 games. The only one I really recognized was Metal Hellslinger, which we talked about during the Xbox showcase. That's like the rhythm-based, arcade shooter, filled with heavy metal. So I'm interested to try that one out, but otherwise, like, all these games are kind of new to me, so I kind of want to try some of these out. But Sean, did anything from this list kind of pique your interest besides Metal Hellsinger, or is that
that is the one? And I was definitely thinking of you when I saw this article on Pure Xbox, because I think like if you take over like the last year, 2 years, whatever it's been, I feel like you've played 75 demos from these things.
Well, more than that actually, because the very first demo event had
like 120
plus.
Yeah.
And I played every single one of them.
Yeah.
And then last year there was about the same amount, and I only played about half of them. So I played about 100 demos from this event, Sean.
I was making up a large number, and the fact that I was even close is just insane. So yeah, like, I love this. I think we can expect maybe some commentary from you over the next couple of weeks. You're definitely the lead on this sort of thing, but I've got to get my hands on this metal. What is it called? Metal
Hellslinger.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Give me some.
Well, actually, again, it's bad timing. I don't know how many of these I'm going to get to this year, because there are so many games that I'm playing this week, especially because I want to get extra miles out about some of these games too next week.
Yeah.
So it's just going to kind of cut into some of that demo time, but I definitely want to get to some of these, especially some of the ones that, I haven't, had a chance to play yet or haven't heard of, because I loved, discovering new experiences. So I hope some of these are awesome, and I'll definitely be checking some out and kind of checking back kind of next week about some
check
of
a
these. Also,
look.
Kevin Ainsworth also points in the chat that Fire Emblem is also out this week too, which I'm also very excited about. So there's throw another game on the list. Ryan needs to play this
Good
week.
God. Yeah, like, our time for catching up on backlogs is over. It's done. If you haven't gotten to those old games, like, you're done. Then time to buy the new games. This is it.
Well, I mean, again, this week is very much a Ryan Turford week. I don't know how many of these games you're actually buying, Sean. So maybe you can get to some.
I have to practice some sort of discipline here, man, because I'm just like I'm buying games like I was like 10 years ago. I'd be just being silly about it. So probably, I don't know. I want to try the Fire Emblem demo. I really do, but I still have to finish Rise of the Tomb Raider and all that. Like I can.
Yeah, you should finish the game.
My struggles continue on. Yeah.
Well, moving on, if you needed more games to play, Sean, there are more games coming to Xbox Game Pass this month, and let's break them down. There's not a huge list, but this is also not taking into consideration Shredder's Revenge, which came last week, and Omori, which is also out, that came out last week as well, which I still want to check out at some point, because that's like a horror RPG that I want to check out at some point. But here, the following games are coming to Game Pass for the rest of the month, starting with Shadowrun Trilogy. It's out right now. I forgot to mention this in the rundown, but I tried Shadowrun Trilogy out, but this is definitely not a game for me. I don't really love CRPGs, and this is like a remake of a CRPG series on PC, very similar to something like Baldur's Gate or Icewind Dale or something like that. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay. Yeah, me neither.
So it's like a cyberpunk CRPG series, essentially, is what to think about it. But there's like, but it also mixes in fantasy elements because there's like elves and dwarves and like other fantasy races in this, like cyberpunk future. And you've got like mages, but you've also got, tech people.
What
like,
game is this called? What is the title of this game?
It's Shadowrun Trilogy, and there'll be like
Shadowrun. I was thinking Shadow Warrior. I'm like, what the hell am I? What? Okay, so that's obviously quite different. Okay, but there is a trilogy for that as well, isn't there?
I think there's only 2 Shadow Warrior games.
Kevin Ainsworth in the chat. Kevin's our fact checker. I'm pretty sure there's 3. I'm betting on 3.
Well, Kevin fact checked Shadow Warrior. We'll talk about Total War 3 Kingdoms out today as well. That's essentially like a Romance of the Three Kingdoms style strategy game on PC. And then on the 23rd, so tomorrow, we're getting FIFA 22, and then Naraka Blade Point. That's the Battle Royale game that they showed off during the Xbox Showcase, where you've got 60 players, and it's like Asian influenced third person hack and slash game essentially. Project X Talks, by the way, corrects me, saying there are 3 Shadow Warrior games.
Nailed it.
So Sean, you were correct.
Yep,
there you go.
I'm pretty sure it was on. Pretty sure it's on Game Pass. And there are 3.
I think it's on PlayStation Plus, actually. Now that you've reminded me of that.
There you go. So that's what I was like. You're describing Shadowrun as like this other game. I'm picturing Shadow War. I'm like, what the heck am I thinking of? But in any case,
well, clearly you never played the Xbox 360 hit multiplayer game Shadowrun, which was the spiritual successor to Shadowrun, but it was just a hero shooter on 360.
I've not. So,
and then last game coming to Game Pass on July 1st. So Canada Day in style with Far Cry 5 coming to Game Pass on July 1st. I think that's a pretty awesome game to add there. I know Donnie Reese would be proud.
Definitely. I just remembered that I just found my small Canada flags in the other room, Ryan. And I wanted to have them just waving around, but I'm like, I can't find them anywhere.
We can save them for next week's show because we'll actually be close to Canada Day next week.
No, I think there's a couple topics that I can just leave you on, and I'll go grab them. Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Well, the following games are leaving Game Pass on June 30th, so play them now while you still have a chance. Although we basically have like upgraded versions or sequels to these games in Game Pass already, and that's why most of these are leaving. Starting with FIFA 20, and then Jurassic World Evolution, because you got Jurassic World Evolution 2 last month, and then Last Stop and MotoGP 20. Ooh. So if you want to play those games, play them now while you still have a chance. But again, like their sequels are in Game Pass already, which is
Last Stop is good. Last Stop is a cool game, man. People should definitely check that out. Very short experience, but yeah, shout out to Last Stop.
Yeah, and shout out to Jurassic World Evolution. I think that's a really good strategy game as well. But the sequel, I think, is like really good as well. I think it's actually a better game. So if you haven't played it, definitely
oh my gosh, there's too many games, Ryan. What am I supposed to do, Ryan? What am I supposed to do?
I mean, just sell your soul to get more time to play games, Sean. That's what
I would consider it.
Yeah. Well, anyways, moving on. We got the JRPG news that I know Sean is very excited to talk about, but I mean, I'm super excited to talk about this stuff. So you have to indulge me, Sean. During the Final Fantasy VII 25th anniversary stream, Square Enix has announced that a new version of the 2007 PSP exclusive Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII is getting a remake on Xbox called Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII Reunion. It will be coming to Xbox Series X and S and Xbox One this winter. This is the game where you play as Zack Fair. And it totally spoils the end of Final Fantasy VII, the original, if you've never played it before. So don't play this game.
What spoils it? What do you mean, what spoils it? The game spoils the ending?
The game story spoils the ending of Final Fantasy VII if you don't want to.
Is it I don't even know why I'm asking questions.
So it's a prequel.
This. Okay, it is a prequel?
It's a prequel where you play as Zack. He's a member of Soldier, which what Cloud's a part of.
Yep.
And Cloud and Soldier, Cloud and Zack kind of meet up during the story of Final Fantasy VII. You find out their relationship. It plays like a really key part in the story of the original Final Fantasy VII. But it's a really fantastic action RPG with some great characters, some great writing, a really cool villain in Genesis, who's kind of like Sephiroth, but I like kind of his character a little bit more. Like he's a lot more fleshed out than Sephiroth was, I think, in the original Final Fantasy VII. But the main reason they're doing this remake, Sean, is it sounds like it's going to play into Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2 in a lot of ways, because of the way the ending kind of, ends with that game. But Crisis Core, I think, is a fantastic standalone game. And even if you're not super into Final Fantasy VII, but you like action RPGs, or if you like, the combat of something like Kingdom Hearts, then I think you're really going to dig Crisis Core. I think it's an awesome game, and I'm so glad. Number one, it's actually leaving the PSP because this is one of those games too that is only available physically. They never actually released a digital version of this on the PSP digital store. So the only way to actually play this game currently is to own a physical copy like this one and play it on your PSP. So I'm glad that it's coming to other consoles. And I think it's just a great game overall to come to Xbox. But I think it's weird that this game's coming to Xbox and Final Fantasy VII Remake isn't, because that move doesn't make as much sense to me. It's also coming to Switch as well, which is kind of in the same boat. So it's kind of weird that it's coming to those consoles and not to... And not Remake as well. But alas, I mean, I'm just happy to see more Final Fantasy VII come to Xbox, or at least something from the Final Fantasy VII Remake quadrilogy of games, because this is part of the quadrilogy of those games essentially that they're doing with the 7 Remake coming to Xbox.
I see what you're saying.
One of those games.
Yeah,
they
recently was it during this event that they revealed that it was going to be definitely a 3-part remake?
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
Kato in the chat says, I can't even remember when I ate breakfast. How do y'all remember all these storylines? I'm with you, Kato. I don't understand it. Also, how does a prequel spoil a sequel, the ending to the game that eventually came out afterwards?
There are certain events that happen in Final Fantasy VII that are tied to Cloud specifically that really get spoiled in Crisis Core if you haven't played the original game.
I guess I'll take your word for it. If you've
played Final Fantasy VII before, you know what I'm talking about. But yeah, it's just you don't want to. It's one of the better parts of the original game that I just don't like. Like it's totally a buzzkill if you get it spoiled.
Shout out to Captain Logan, dude. When was the last time you were emotionally connected to your breakfast? I mean, I guess that explains it all. Maybe I should be more connected to my breakfast, and I would remember it more.
Yeah. Also, Kevin Ainsworth in the chat also says he got me on this one. So
all right,
there you go.
All right.
Crisis Core is amazing. I think it's a fantastic game, and I hope people check it out when it comes to Xbox. And I mean, I'll definitely be playing it there because I really want to support Japanese games like this coming to Xbox, because we've already seen that with Persona. We've seen that with stuff like the Somnium Files, which I never thought games like that would ever come to Xbox.
Yeah.
And I want to see more of it. So whenever these games come to Xbox, that's where I will be playing them. Because I'm just happy Microsoft's making some of these deals to get some of these on our platform of choice. So this is out sometime this winter. We don't know when that's going to be, whether that's this winter or early January or February of next year. But I'm excited to go back and play Crisis Core because I think it's an awesome game. But moving on to a game that Garrett Bland was super excited about, Sean, and I had to hear about it from him. Dragon's Dogma 2 has been announced. It was announced during the Dragon's Dogma 10th anniversary stream. We literally have no details about it other than the fact that, it's out at some point eventually, and that it's in development. In fact, the showcase itself was literally, the director of Dragon's Dogma and some other people from Capcom on in front of a screen, and they were just talking about, the legacy of Dragon's Dogma, and then they just ripped their shirts off and just said Dragon's Dogma 2, and then, that was kind of the end of it. But yeah, Dragon's Dogma 2, I'm excited that it's coming out, but it is a little bit, deflating to get a game announcement here that we're excited that is finally coming out at some point, but we literally know nothing about it. We don't know a release date. We don't know, any of the story beats or any of the gameplay or what this game's even going to look like or even what platforms it's on. But I'm excited that Dragon's Dogma fans finally have a sequel to this game that they've been asking for, Sean, for years and years and years. It's finally coming out. So Dragon's Dogma 2, please be excited about it.
I know zero about this game. People are obviously excited about it, but I'm happy for you, man.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to tag out on that one though. But I found my Canadian flags. I
saw
them right. Yeah.
You have multiple Canadian flags,
Yep.
John.
I had smaller ones. These are a little larger than I was thinking.
I was just gonna say, I was expecting smaller Canadian flags when you said you had mini flags.
I have to stand back from the microphone because it's like I'm like waving you in for like your final lap or something.
Yeah. Good God. What is this show even?
Oh, man. It's the Xbox Drive. You got to wave them in. It's like the final lap. It's a driving reference. That's fine. Everything's fine.
I guess. But audio listeners can't even see what you're doing right now, Sean. So I don't understand.
YouTube.com/carpoolgaming.
Kevin Ainsworth in the chat, by the way, has a question. Is Canada Day like 4th of July for the U.S.? Yeah, essentially. It's just...
It's our birthday.
It's on July 1st. It's essentially our, holiday celebrating Canada becoming a country. So...
Yeah.
Not for that.
Go us.
On July 1st. But anyways, last news story, and this one broke right before we started because there was a big tease about this yesterday where IGN basically released this clip from Sega that almost dolphin noises where they're like a game is going to steal the show tomorrow. Look out for this announcement at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time tomorrow, which is today, of course. And we finally got the reveal of this. Turns out, Sean, it's not an Echo the Dolphin game, like a lot of people were suspecting. I know Mike Minotti over at GameSpeak was like, he swore it was Echo the Dolphin, but I actually had another theory in mind, and I actually think, and mine actually came true, because this is a new game from Creative Assembly, which, for folks that don't know, they're actually the developers who made Alien Isolation.
Yeah.
So this is their first new game since then, but they also made they created the Total War series for Sega as well. So those strategy games. But they're doing
involved
something
in Gears Tactics. That's where I thought you were going with that. Creative Assembly, maybe something. Kevin Ainsworth. You know what? Kevin Ainsworth just needs to be a third chair on the show. I think we need. I think we might have to make this happen.
We know Kevin Ainsworth knows more about games than I do, Sean,
yeah,
so
dude.
We need to bring him on.
Kevin Ainsworth. What else did Creative Assembly do? He's in the chat anyways.
Well, while we wait for Kevin to answer, Sean, Creative Assembly. I love their games. I think they're awesome. So they announced their new game, but it's totally different from anything they've done before. So they announced their new game called Hyenas, which is a 15-player player versus environment versus player shooter that takes 5 teams of 3 with the goal of stealing pop culture artifacts. So some of the artifacts they showed off you can steal are like the Statue of Liberty or, all kinds of, or like the Washington Monument or all kinds of like weird, like world pop culture art, like things that exist in the world. Or even there's references to a bunch of movies and stuff like 2001: A Space Odyssey, or there's also some Sonic references in there, Sean.
Nice.
As well. But this game is going to launch on Xbox Series X and S and Xbox One sometime this year. They're targeting with beta signups live now, but they basically just had a cinematic trailer for it that was exclusive to IGN. They basically had like the exclusive reveal for this.
Exclusive.
And they talked about it afterwards, where there's a bunch of different wacky guns you can use in this game. Like there's a sticky gun that allows you to create barriers to hide behind. It kind of reminds me of like the goo gun from Prey, if you ever played the Prey reboot from Arcane. As well as just it kind of gave me vibes of stuff like Sunset Overdrive or like all kinds of like shooters that don't really take themselves too seriously. And that's the tone that the Creative Assembly people said they were going for with this game. So I actually think this game looks pretty cool, Sean.
Sounds awesome.
I'm kind of curious to know what the gameplay itself is going to look like, but so far I think the concept sounds really cool. But yeah, you agree. It sounds like you think it's pretty awesome as well.
Well, and the thing that jumped out to me immediately was like 5 teams of 3. Like this is actually kind of where I would love Splatoon to go. Like I want more than just like 2 teams of 4. I would love like 3 teams of 3 or something like that. I think that would be really interesting, especially with Splatoon 3. Like it's 3 on 3 on 3. I think that would be really neat. But that's maybe for another show. Yeah, like let's get more different takes on multiplayer. It doesn't have to be like a battle royale. It doesn't have to be a traditional deathmatch. Like this is kind of interesting, and I think people are more open to this than maybe in the Battleborn days or Evolve. Was that the other game with the?
That was Evolve. Yeah.
Yeah, like it. I think we've opened up to different types of multiplayer games. They don't have to be a huge hit, but very cool that they're going well outside of their typical game. And Project X Talk in the chat. Creative Assembly also did Halo Wars 2. That's what I was thinking of.
That's right. Yeah, because I thought it was weird that you said Gears Tactics, but then as soon as you said Halo Wars 2, it like kind of clicked into my brain.
Yeah, it was definitely something with the first party stuff. So Battleborn was amazing.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Maybe maybe we need to take back the whole Kevin jumping in on the show.
Maybe because
he thinks Battleborn's amazing.
Battleborn's a game, but
yeah,
I'm actually really stoked for this. I would have, been more excited if Creative Assembly was maybe doing, Alien Isolation 2. But if we can't get that, I at least like that they're going in a direction where they haven't gone before. They're trying new things, but also again, like not doing a standard multiplayer shooter by the sounds of it either. Like trying new things with it, I think, and exploring that space before. To your point, Sean, I think is a great move. So I'm glad we're seeing more games like this, and yeah, I think this sounds awesome. But otherwise, Sean, I think that's going to do it for this week's show. We didn't really have any other questions outside of Fall Guys at this point, and we're out of news to talk about. So I think we had a pretty good show this week, my friend.
Back to work.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Sean. But I always feel bad forcing Sean to go back to work a little bit early. But Sean, where can everyone find you on the internet, my friend?
You can find me, well, apparently you can find me logging into my PlayStation and Xbox and wherever else. My gamer tag is Sean Capri if people want to find me there. It's also Sean Capri on Twitch and on Twitter. It's Sean like Connery. Capri like the pants. And dude, we keep selling this merch. Like, we're going to run out of merch pretty soon. I don't even know if that's possible, but the merch keeps flying off the shelves. And I feel like there was one other thing I wanted to tell you guys about, but I'm slipping my mind. Play Fall Guys with us, Twitch on Saturday. That's what I'll leave you with.
There you go. As for me, you can find me on Twitter at Ryan Turford. You can find us on Twitter at YouTube, at Carpool Gaming, on YouTube at youtube.com/Carpool Gaming, on podcast services around the globe. So, for Sean Capri, I'm Ryan Turford. This has been episode 246 of the Xbox Drive, and we out. Ball.
I'm waving around these Canadian flags. You can probably hear it kind of like flapping around and stuff in your ears. So maybe I'm kind of flapping things into your ears, and hopefully you guys enjoy that. And I got to put these flags down so I can hit the button and end the show. Okay, bye.